So, Colin, as you know, I teach an introductory marketing course
Yep.
to MBA students. And semester's coming to a close as we're recording this. And so I recently got to teach my favorite lectures, which are those on communications.
Okay, cool.
Yep. So we talk about advertising and other forms of communications. I get to show a bunch of funny commercials. It's my favorite lecture to teach. And it occurred to me that so I had an insight a couple of years ago as I was teaching this, and I've changed the way that I've taught some of it. And I thought that I would share it on the podcast, and you and I could discuss it a little bit.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds
Okay.
good. So what's the overall subject?
So we're going to talk about why things go viral and what we can do
Okay.
to encourage viral content. And it's actually more applicable even than that. It's anything about indirect communication. So public relations, influencers, viral content, all these things I
Okay.
think kind of fit under this umbrella.
All
Good.
right. Well, and you know what will be going viral as well shortly, don't you?
I'm
It will
afraid
be
to hear your answer. Tell me your answer, Colin.
it will be this on YouTube because you
There we
know that
go.
we're now broadcasting these on YouTube. So if you haven't seen Ryan and I, then please go to YouTube.
Now, speaking of viruses,
Absolutely, yeah. And you know what? There's no vaccination for it.
this is our natural diseased state, and there's nothing to do about it.
No, absolutely. No. Sorry, mate, I interrupted you.
No, no, that's very helpful. So
I'm not
it's
like any of
good.
your students. Do they just sit there and just go, "Oh Lord, he is our master. He is the font
Yes,
of all knowledge."
yeah, no, that's completely what it is. No, you've apparently never met an MBA student. They're not, they're not big on that. No, but they do push back a lot on stuff that I teach, which leads to interesting discussions, which is something that
Good.
I very much enjoy. So it's good that some of you are watching this on YouTube because I'm going to be using my hands here in kind of a modern dance kind of way to
Right.
illustrate some things. Those of you listening on audio will just have to imagine. One of the diagrams that I draw on the board over and over again throughout the course of the semester when I'm teaching introductory marketing is just a simple Venn diagram with three circles where we talk about value to the company, value to the customer, and value to collaborators. Where collaborators are any other business entities that are involved. So it could be consultants if they're vital to this transaction. It could be your retailers, distributors, any other outside entity. And the idea is that we need to hit the middle point in that Venn diagram where everybody is getting something out of the transaction or it's going to fail. Right. So far, so
Right.
good. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so I'll teach cases where we'll do the analysis and we'll figure out like, oh, this decision made a lot of sense for the company, but they really weren't leaving a lot on the table for the customers or their collaborators were not on board with this. And that's why I failed. So everybody needs to be getting something out of this. All right. So far, so good.
Yep.
When we want something to go viral, or alternatively, when we want our public relations campaign to work, then that person who's communicating is our collaborator, right? So, for
Right.
instance, let's start with PR because I think that's a little simpler. So, we've got a story to tell, and then we want that story to get out to customers. And so, we're going to send out a press release to a bunch of reporters, and we want them to tell our story. If we want that to happen, we need to understand the source of value that those journalists want, that they need, so that we can provide that to them. What most firms do when they want to run a PR campaign is they'll print up a press release, send out a press packet, and it's like, well, here's the announcement of the thing we're doing, and here's a quote from our president, and he's very excited, and here's a quote from a client, and she's very excited. And then it goes out to all these reporters, and nobody cares. Like, nobody cares. Your reporters do not care about what you're doing.
Right.
If we want our story to be spread, we need to figure out what does the reporter need, right? So, for
Right.
example, the example I use in class is if we're in a down economy, there's usually reporters who are wanting to write green shoots stories. Like they want to tell a
Right.
story about how the economy is turning around. So if you've done something in your business that is like you're launching a new product and so you've hired new employees, nobody cares about your new product or about your hiring new employees, but there are some reporters out there who might care about that as evidence of the story that they want to write anyway.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you're really talking here about framing.
Uh, yes, in terms of like framing the story so that they understand the value to them.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah. Put in the same story over, but in the context of whatever it is that they're
What they
whatever
care
the
about, what
what
their
they care
needs are.
about. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me tell you the story of the most successful PR campaign I'm aware of to illustrate
Okay.
this point. Right. So there's a company out of the San Francisco Bay Area called American Giant, and they make hoodies. They make sweatshirts. But these are really nice sweatshirts. They cost, $150 or so. I actually own an American Giant hoodie, and it is my nice hoodie. Like this is my dress hoodie. This is the one that I wear to weddings and things. Uh, and so they didn't have a lot of money, and so they wanted to run a PR campaign, and so they needed to figure out if they could get a reporter to tell the story of their company. So they
Right.
could have like sent out a press release to like the fashion pages of some newspaper, but why would the fashion reporter care about this sweatshirt company? And how many of their target customers are going to be reading the fashion section of the New York Times anyway? So what they did instead is they went to a technology columnist at Slate magazine. So Slate is a company that they anticipated a lot of their customers, their target customers, would read, and they were very interested in technology. A lot of technology people kind of like sweatshirts, like hoodies. So they went to this technology columnist named Farhad Manju, and they pitched him the story about this company. And they said, "We're a sweatshirt company, but we're really a technology company that makes sweatshirts." So they said, "We've hired a bunch of Apple designers to design our sweatshirts. We use this kind of fail fast innovation model to design our sweatshirts. We prototype a bunch of stuff and test it, and then change it and prototype it and test it again." And we manufacture in the U.S. and then we only distribute through our website. So we don't distribute in traditional retail. So really, we're a tech company. We just make sweatshirts. And this technology columnist was interested. So he'd probably written about computer companies for the last 40 weeks.
Right.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
now somebody was giving him
Yeah.
kind of a fresh story,
Sure.
a new perspective that still fit with what we're going to do. So, all right, I'll go down. I'll tour your factory. So he did, and they showed him around. They explained what made the sweatshirts better, and so he wrote a story called "This is the greatest hoodie ever made," and then talked about how great the hoodies were and about the technology that they use. It crashed their website, so all of these tech people read the column, and they went immediately. They had to redesign their website, all the servers. They sold out of everything within just a few days. They would take your money and then promise to send you a sweatshirt eventually because they were just out of stock. It was like I think I had to wait 6 months for mine
Wow.
because it was just so sold out so far in advance. And it was successful because they understood the value of this columnist. They met his needs. He was able to tell a fun and interesting
Sure.
technology story that met his needs, and as
Sure.
a result, the benefit went to the company.
Sure.
So far, so
Sure.
good.
That makes. Yeah. No. Absolutely. It's making me think of and I hope I'm not stealing any of your thunder. Did you ever see that one? United breaks guitars.
Yes, I teach that case. Go ahead and tell the story.
Oh.
Yeah, I
Oh.
wasn't going to
So
mention it here, but that's a fantastic example.
it is, and we'll put a link in the show notes for the people that haven't seen it. But um, it was this Canadian group, I think, who were flying from somewhere to somewhere on a United flight, and they had a gig, and they've got their Taylor guitars, and a Taylor guitars are an expensive guitar.
Yeah, very nice
Uh,
guitars. Yeah,
yeah, and they basically the Taylor guitar got broken. Okay, and they ended up uh, liaising with the United, who took no notice of them, basically.
yeah.
So
That gave
they
him the
wrote,
runaround for about a year. They had to keep them
yeah,
in contact.
absolutely,
Like it was awful.
yeah. So they decided that what they were going to do was they were going to create a song, and the song is great. I love
Oh,
it.
it's great. Yeah. I don't care for country music. I could listen to that song all day long.
Yeah,
It's really fun. Yeah.
and it's called United Breaks Guitars, and the imagery, and again we'll put a link in the show notes. The imagery is great, and I remember when that broke, it you know everyone was killing themselves laughing. Now the interesting bit was, it was picked up a lot on a lot of the news channels,
Yep.
CNN and various different places. Um, but I think one of the things that also it came about because it talked about the customer service or the
Yep.
lack of it and the way that they were treated with indifference. I think that was actually a word they used in the song. Um, but it really made me think at the time was, yeah, the reason this is so powerful is because everybody thinks that's the case, that they don't care.
Yeah.
And this was just a manifestation of it in a fun way, in a great catchy song. Um, and it was really something that really went viral, wasn't it?
Yeah. And so if we look at it from the perspective of, and this is a nice transition here, like if we look at it from the perspective of like the collaborator, now this is like an anti-collaborator, right? Like United did not want this story told and it did not want
No,
it to get out. I believe that it resulted in a like significant and noticeable dip in United share prices for a
yes,
while. Like this did
yes,
serious damage.
yeah.
Um, but he didn't tell that story um, musically. He didn't tell that story because of like some benefit or harm that he wanted to come to United. He was serving his own needs. Like he wanted to tell this story and he was able to get it out. And the fact that he had a sense of humor and that he was talented musically meant that other people were going to pick it up and share. But then now they became collaborators or anti-collaborators in this chain. So if I saw that song and then I shared it with somebody else, why did I do that? Why did somebody share that video?
So I guess they would have shared it A because they thought it was fun, B because they thought that this sort of to a certain extent a bit of a warning, isn't it? That
Yeah,
this type of thing happens, and you know traditionally the airlines don't care basically, and there's sort of an affinity there, isn't there?
exactly. So when things fail to go viral, it is often because the firms that are putting this stuff out fail to anticipate the needs that drive things forward. So I see a lot of funny stuff that I don't share with anybody. When I share something, it's because I have some relational goal that I want met. So when I
Right.
share funny content, it's mostly because I want to make somebody else happy or I want to inform somebody else of something. It's got nothing to do with your brand. In fact, I was in an ad agency several years ago and they had chalkboards on the walls all around the agency. And so all of the agency creatives would just draw stuff on there. And it was great. Lots of really fun imagery that they would do. And I took a picture of something that I saw on the wall and I share it in my classes. Somebody had written in big, colorful block letters. It says, I tell my friends about your brand, not because I like your brand, but because I like my friends.
Right. Yeah,
And
that's good.
that's the key insight. If you
Yeah.
want something to go viral, it's if somebody loves your product, like I love the American Giant sweatshirts. It's a great sweatshirt. Outside of class, when I'm telling the story, I've told almost nobody about them
Right.
because it doesn't serve my relational needs.
Don't you also share some of those things because of what it says about you?
Yes, absolutely. So there's relational needs and then there's self-presentation needs and
Right.
self-definition needs. But
Right.
we need to understand like what are the needs that this thing it's not
Yeah.
enough to make something great, right? It's not
Sure.
enough even to have a great customer experience. If we want something to
Sure.
go viral, it's got to serve those needs. And so part of the reason that humorous content often goes viral is because it serves a relational and sometimes a self-presentation need where
Sure.
I want to make you happy as my friend, and so this
Yes.
will, I think, make you happy or
Sure.
inform you in some.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And the self perception, or not the self. What did you just call
Yeah,
it? Not the self.
self-perception or
Yeah,
self-definition.
it is sort of going. maybe this is something that I feel that I stand for, or I
Exactly.
support,
Yep.
or I like to think that I do.
Right.
Maybe that's
Or I
much
want
more
people to
correct.
think that I do, right? I might
Yeah,
share something that's, about the environment, because I care about it deeply, and so therefore I want to express it, or because I want to signal some virtue, and I want people to think nicer things about me than I actually believe about myself, or because I
yeah,
think that they might care about it. So all of the, I mean, think about, all of the emails that are forwarded to us, or all the memes that are forwarded to us from family members, from your grandma, or from your children, or from your grandchildren. A lot of times, my teenage kids will want to sit down with my wife and I and share a bunch of TikToks that they like, and some of them mean
sure,
nothing to me. I don't even understand why they find it funny,
sure,
but they're sharing it because they want to share something that's important to them, or that they
sure,
found funny, right? And so it's this relationship
sure.
goal.
But I mean, that clearly extends to anything, doesn't it?
Yes. Yep.
I mean, if I think of, as you were talking about it, if I think of what I share with my family, then I may share pictures of something with my family. It could even just be a family gathering or whatever else. And you're doing that because you think that they would be interested in it, they'll find it funny, whatever it may be, basically.
I mean, that's the way we should all be thinking about this, because
Yeah,
this when we as marketers, when we as customer experience professionals want something to go viral, the motivations that make something go viral are not new. It's not like these motivations came about with social media. We've
yeah,
always had these motivations,
yeah.
right? Like
It's
you
just
say,
the
when you're
method
sharing.
that you're doing it is a lot faster. But I guess
Exactly.
what you're saying is it's everybody in the chain, isn't it?
Yes.
So it's understanding that there's a chain, and
Hmm.
it's understanding that there are different people within that chain. And if you therefore want it to be exponentially have an exponential growth, then you've got to appeal to everybody in that chain.
That's right. Yeah. So you need to turn customers and other people out in the world into collaborators by understanding what is important to them and delivering
Yeah.
on that value. And that may be totally different from the source of value that you would provide to them as customers.
Mm. Makes me wonder then, why do people, and maybe this is a sort of slightly different topic, but it's a bit like trolling people or
Hmm.
when people pile on to people,
Yep.
because that's a form of viral, isn't it?
Yep.
Somebody says something and then everybody starts piling on, it, saying how bad it was or whatever else. So what's happening there?
So one of the motivations that we have as people is to be a part of something. So think of a
Right.
positive example, like the ice bucket challenge that went viral several
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
Right, this was used to raise money for ALS. And why did so many people participate in that? Well, because it feels good to be a part of something, right?
Yeah.
I think this is a part of the reason why we get into sports, and especially when our team is winning, is
Yeah.
it feels good to be a part of that community. This is why
Sure.
dances go viral on TikTok. Like we've
Sure.
seen other people do them, now we want to do them ourselves and post them. I mean, I to be clear,
Sure.
I have never done a TikTok dance.
I
Never.
tell you what, the one I love is that sea shanty.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you, my one of my granddaughters loves it as well. So we're constantly playing this sea shanty song now, which
So
you go, actually, sea shanties. Never thought I'd be playing sea shanties.
no, that was not in my prediction set for 2020 or whenever that came out.
Yeah.
Whenever that got big. So there were some people who created that, um, and then many more who shared it. So
Yeah.
there's some people who are actually contributing to that content, but many other people who shared it, and we shared it because it was unusual. Like
Yeah.
sea shanties was not something I knew, and it was delightful. Like it was really good. Like the people who did it were very talented. The music was a lot of fun. Um, and it was a little bit funny in that it was so different and unusual. And so all of those things provided us with opportunities to share and
Yeah.
to strengthen relationships and to signal that we were interesting people by liking this interesting thing.
I tell you what's interesting that starts to annoy me a little. Um, is
Is it me? I'm both interesting and annoying. I've heard that.
yes,
Okay. Okay.
that's very true.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
truest thing that you've said for weeks on this
Yeah.
show. Do you know
Well, I
that?
mean, I'm a truth teller. Annoyingly, I'm a truth teller.
Yeah. So we have a group on one of the messaging apps with our friends.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, and somebody comes up with some bad news or some good news, and everybody then it feels like you have to say something. You can't just not say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that goes back to what I think I said in the last show, which is not responding is actually responding.
Right.
Yeah. But somebody says, "Oh, I've just gone to the doctors and my left toe hurts," and everyone goes, "Oh, that's a shame," and it feels like, and you're like the eighth person. And you're, oh, I'm gonna have to say it's a shame, isn't it? So, and maybe I'm just becoming a grumpy old man, but I was thinking I don't really want to say it's a shame. So I normally just put a thumbs up or a thumbs down or
Right.
a sticker or something like that. But it's interesting on that, isn't it, that you feel the need to contribute or there's a social pressure to contribute as well, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you and I did a podcast months ago at this point where we talked about the Dunbar number and some of the
Yes,
research on that.
yes.
And one
Do
of
you
the
remember what the
interesting,
number is?
uh,
This is a
no,
test because
one,
I
one,
know.
125? No,
No,
50?
153, I think it was 58 or 143. It's one of
There's
those
no way
things.
that's right. But
And sorry, do you want to explain to us what the Dunbar number
sure.
is?
So Robin Dunbar did research on communities and kind of how large communities can grow before relationships essentially start to break down. Like we can only
Yeah,
essentially afford to be close to a certain number of people,
yeah,
just capacity wise. We can't keep track of that many people.
yeah,
And this varies by kind of strength of relationship. So your very, very closest friends is the smallest number, and then casual acquaintances is a much larger number.
yeah.
But part of the one thing that I found interesting in as doing the background research for that episode is that there's a research indicating that a large part of relationships is just time together. So we tend to get closer to people with whom we spend time and have conversations, and then as we
Sure,
don't spend the time, those relationships just naturally kind of decay. And so I think that this social pressure that you're talking about, where we feel a need to contribute and feel a need to respond and even feel a need to like share things, share memes and share thoughts, and um, some of that may just be relationship maintenance. And so it may
sure,
be important, even if it feels obligatory,
sure.
just to kind of maintain that level.
Yes, yes,
And so again, going back to our original point, relationship maintenance is a goal. It is a need that people have,
yes,
and so that you can help
yes,
fulfill by providing them content that they value and will share.
yes, yes. And the opposite would be true.
Yes.
Providing them content that they don't want is not gonna help, etc. So
Well, I mean, a lot of our communications as marketers is intended to persuade people or to inform them.
sure.
And relatively little of it is intended to serve these relational or self presentation needs that they have.
But something to go really viral must hit all of those things. I mean, the danger is it sounds quite easy, and we
Yeah,
know
it
that
is
getting
not
things to
easy.
go viral is not easy.
No. Um, there are, I mean, the flip side of that is we all have these needs to share, right? Or rather, by sharing, we meet certain needs. The problem for marketers is that we now live in an environment where there's almost infinite content to share, right?
Sure,
So everybody's producing things that could potentially meet these needs. And so
sure,
in order for something to go viral, it really has to meet those needs well. So if something
And
is
it needs to
really funny or really surprising,
stand out from the
yeah, it's got to
crowd,
stand out.
basically. Yeah, and I guess that's to a certain extent where influencers come in, isn't it? Because they've obviously got a wide expanse of people and therefore can turbo boost all those types of things.
Yes. So influencers can be bought. So when we think about that collaborator value circle, it's easier to get an influencer to share our message because we pay them to do that,
Yep.
and so they can get it out to a lot of people. But then it dies there unless that message that is shared by the influencer then creates some value for the people who had been shared on. So another example that I teach in class when I teach this, there's an influencer named Charli D'Amelio who's very, very big on TikTok. She's kind of the queen of TikTok. She was the first person on TikTok to reach 50 million followers, and then later was the first to reach 100 million followers. So she's, if you're not familiar with her, she's essentially famous for dancing for 7 to 9 seconds at a time. That's kind of her skill set. But she Dunkin' Donuts worked with her to create a special coffee drink that she liked. They called it the Charlie, and so she posted videos of herself buying the Charlie drink at Dunkin' Donuts and drinking it, which is fine. Like that works kind of like traditional advertising. We've paid her. She's going to put that content out there. What made this different, though, is that she had all of these followers who, when she does a dance, a lot of times they will record themselves doing the dance and then post that because that serves a need that they have, both a kind of self presentation need and a
Sure.
relationship need. And once she started drinking the Charlie drink and ordering it, then you now had millions of her followers who
Going
needed
out
to
and
record themselves buying and drinking the drink and then going on YouTube and posting a review of the drink. And then
yeah,
the people who saw that would do that. So again, it's not about the drink and it's not about the person, but it existed in this ecosystem where it now provided an opportunity for people to produce their own content and meet their
yeah,
own needs by doing that.
yeah. And as you were saying that, I could see that happening. But I would also imagine that there must be another group of people that would be recording a meme that is the opposite of that, that is taking the Mickey, as we would say in England. That
Absolutely.
because they're doing, and that may go viral because people find it funny. I was thinking of some examples of some politicians recently who have done something and then with one intent, and then
Yep.
it's being used by the opposition for a different intent, and it's caught people's imagination and gone a bit wild, basically.
Yeah, and depending on kind of what you're promoting and in what way, there are some instances where that may not even be a bad thing. So if
No,
people were like kind of hating on Charlie and the Charlie drink, they're still talking about it. And then you're going to get another group who's going to respond back to them and keep that conversation going. And so if you're
yep,
selling this drink, it may not be a bad thing even. I
no,
think for
no,
politicians,
absolutely,
it's usually a bad thing. But
yeah, no, absolutely. Great. So let me check. Is that it? Because last week when I got to this point, you turned around and said, "I've got this really insightful thing to say," and I just wondered if you'd got another one this week.
yeah, I have lots more insightful things, but I'm so insulted by the last time we recorded when you assumed that I was out of insights that I'm going to withhold them as a
you're
punishment.
you're insighted out, are you?
That's right.
So you're insight out.
No,
There you go.
I'll summarize. Like, if we want people to communicate on our behalf, whether it's
Yeah,
the press, whether it's influencers, whether it's customers talking to other customers, we need to understand the value that they get out of doing that.
yeah,
And we need to understand why they would do that, and we need to meet their needs as collaborators. And that may be completely different than meeting their needs as customers. We could create something that is great for them as customers,
yeah,
but meets none of their needs for them to share it, in which
yeah,
case they won't share it. So
yeah.
that's my
It,
advice.
yeah, and sound advice, mate. So really good. I think the interesting thing for me is there's nothing new
No,
in things going viral.
no,
It's the technology
yes,
that has enabled it, basically, and the speed that that it now happens is the key. But that's basically it's the technology. And it goes back to what I've always said is it's not that social media is new. Well, social media is new, but actually it's meeting the need of human beings
That's
to
right.
be social. And if you understand the human aspect of these things, then you can build on top of it. So
That's exactly right. We've got a bunch of new tools, but humans aren't actually any different than we were before.
no, absolutely. And talking about new tools and talking about technology and social media, if you could do us a favor and leave us a review, that would be really good. Reviews, Ryan and I are always interested in reading the new reviews, and it helps us get out ourselves out. And you never know, we may go viral one day. I don't
That's
know for
right.
what reason.
Sharing some of our content with your friends and family can only strengthen those relationships. So you
I
really
don't
should.
think so. Yeah, absolutely. Good. Okay, everyone. Thanks very much for listening, and we look forward to talking to you next week. Cheers.